This Friday show is popping off, representing Las Vegas, Nevada. Teddy Covers in the house on this Friday morning. Teddy, how you doing?
Woo, woo. Well, I'm doing okay. I had the Titans last night, so it wasn't a whole lot of fun. But it's a new day today and a new weekend upcoming, so hopefully we'll have better results over the next 72 hours than I had over the last 24.
Yes, I feel that. Thankfully, I had the over in the Tulane-Houston game, so I've now, even though that the debacle I had the first week of September in college football, I've now 24-22, up a little under a half unit, but up a plus unit and plus ROI beside me. So that makes me very excited. All right, let's get to work. So I broke down a bunch of spots that the different cappers are on, and I enjoyed doing that. But on Friday, I also want to hear what you've decided to move forward with after all of your studying. So what we're going to do is first, I'm going to pitch Ron Crawford, great capper. I'm going to pitch Ron Crawford's college football plays to you. Now, if you guys, anybody in the chat right now has any questions for Teddy Covers, please ask in the chat. I will copy and paste, and I will ask them. So we're going to go over Ron Crawford's plays. We'll go over some questions in the chat, and then I really want to know what you've now that we've got to Friday, what you've decided that you think are really nice looks in this spot. So we're going to start with Ron Crawford and his first look, and there's been a lot of talk about it. We should probably talk about all these Friday games. Let me move over to college football right now. At the Sportsbook Review SBR odds page. Here we go. And first off is the game that's tonight, and I know we've been a lot of back and forth, and I know you're backing the Utes. Has anything changed because Ron Crawford's on Utah minus 3.5?
No, I'm going to give you guys 6 plays at the end of the show, and one of those 6 plays is going to be Utah.
Okay, perfect.
Absolutely. I've no hesitation. This isn't one that I'm, should I or shouldn't I? Utah's better than USC, and I expect them to show it, and I expect the Utah defense to give the Trojans a lot of problems in this ballgame. Slovis is about to face the toughest defense he's faced, and, he threw 3 picks in BYU last week. I wouldn't be surprised if he has more problems here.
All right, some questions coming in from Eddie Euler and Connor Longo. I'm copying and pasting them. The next look on his card is another game this evening. It's Boise at minus 7. We saw them open up at 9.5. Now 7's across the board. Ron Crawford is on Boise to cover the 7 points tonight. What do you think?
So, I went into this game deep last night, and I ended up passing the contest. I'm not going to play it either side. You can make a strong case for Boise. Boise is going to be able to throw the football against Air Force's defense. They've done it in every recent meeting. I would expect them to be able to do it in this meeting. They face Air Force every year, so in theory, they should have a decent shot at shutting down Air Force offensively. But when you look at the recent meetings, the last 4 years, Air Force has won straight up twice. They hung 38 last year on Boise, so we haven't seen the Broncos defense really do a strong job against Air Force. Boise's been a lousy home favorite for years. Air Force has been a great road underdog, and this has been a competitive series. So while I like the spot for Boise, while I think there's a decent chance Boise blows the doors off of Air Force tonight, there's a decent chance Air Force pulls off the upset as well. I'm not going to get involved. Good luck with your play.
Not getting involved. I agree. It is a tricky spot here. Next up on Ron Crawford's card is Washington minus 6.5. What do you think of that spot?
Well, he's got one of my plays. Now he's got 2 of my plays. Well, we'll see if we can get through all 6 before the show's done. Yes, I do like Washington to beat BYU. I like them to beat BYU comfortably.
Okay.
Last year, 35-7, and it wasn't that close. There was a complete domination at the line. I think BYU had 7 first downs in that game. And admittedly, they've changed quarterbacks since then, and Zach Wilson has more of a deep arm than Tanner Magnum did last year. But at the line of scrimmage, Washington is by far the better team, and I expect it to show.
All right, so Teddy's going to give us 6 plays at the end of the show, and we found 2 of them out, Utah and Washington, and those are correlated with our Ron Crawford's college looks here. Questions are coming in. I'm copying and pasting them, and we're going to get to that. Next up on his card is Colorado plus 8.5. Colorado plus 8.5. What do you think there?
I like the way this guy's thinking. I have not yet pulled the trigger on the Buffaloes, but that is absolutely the only way I would look in that game. And I may well do so. The line continues to rise. It's not, I understand it's Pac-12 opener and all that. Number one, Colorado can play. Number 2, Arizona State is overvalued in this spot. Number 3, I don't trust Arizona State's offense to win by margin. Number 4, I don't trust Herm Edwards to win by margin. So yeah, I would take. There's no way I want Arizona State. It's Colorado or pass. Clearly, the only reason I haven't bet it yet is because the line keeps going up.
Here we have a big market move game as well. The next spot on Ron's card is Ole Miss.
I don't have a strong take on the side in this game. Look, Cal's defense is very real. All right. There's no fraud in that defense at all. All 3 units are dominant. And when you have a dominant defense against a mediocre offense, and say what you want about Ole Miss, their offense has been mediocre. You saw what happened in the Memphis game. And admittedly, that was weeks ago. They didn't move the football up and down the field against Arkansas either. It's so, I understand the West Coast team traveling east, early start game, SEC versus Pac-12, all of that kind of stuff. I'm just not excited about laying a field goal with Ole Miss, 2.5. And especially we got the worst of the number here. They were dogs at the open. Not a game I'm betting the other side. I'm not going to talk you out of it, but not one that's going to make my card.
Not making Teddy's card. Okay, let's go back. We have just a couple more spots on Ron Crawford's card. The next one is Nevada minus 13.
That line moved down?
I've got to pull it up right now. I'm just going off of
No, we're never a 13 on there. I haven't seen a 13 all week. That might have been right at the open. If you bet it at the open, I'll give him credit. That's been painted 14 all week. And I wouldn't talk you out of the Wolfpack. I really wouldn't. I mean, this is a decent team against a bottom feeder, and I have no hesitation betting against bottom feeders at home. I have no hesitation laying points on the road with a mediocre team that can run the football. Because that means you can move the chains in the second half, and when you're trying to protect the lead, you can get first downs and get more touchdowns. The Wolfpack can do all of that. And, talking about 2 teams with very different levels of confidence here. I could only take Nevada in this ballgame. But again, if you got a 13 in your pocket, knock yourself out. You did a good job betting this game. The prevailing number more like 14.5.
Yeah, I see Pinnacle's moved it to 14.5. I see 14s across the board right now. Next up, he has Florida at minus 14.
That's one where I like the other side. I would only take Tennessee in this game. And again, it's a pure value equation. This is a kid for Florida that hasn't started a game since his freshman year of high school or something silly. I mean, it's a crazy story. And now we're getting Tennessee away from home. Look, the theory is like this, all right? The Vols, back-to-back bad losses at home to start the season. The loss to BYU certainly stands out. Then last week you had the get-right game against a bottom feeder. Now you're leaving town. That's exactly what I want out of my ugly underdogs. Okay, you have the confidence boost where you beat somebody and now you can win a game. And oh, by the way, you're getting out of town for the first time all year. I think that's a positive for Tennessee. I really do. And nothing I've seen from Florida this year. I bet against them last week. I should have bet against them week 1 against Miami. Nothing I've seen from the Gators has me thinking that this team is priced properly in the betting markets right now. I think they're an overvalued commodity, and I would only bet Tennessee in that one.
Only taking Tennessee if he took it. And then finally, we have the first guy to jump on Auburn. We've seen a lot of people on the other side. What do you think of his last play on his card, Auburn +4?
So I lean Auburn. I have not pulled the trigger on Auburn. A&M's been such a good point spread team in the Fisher era, and I do worry about Nix in this environment. But on the other hand, we saw what happened to Kellen Mond, the veteran quarterback, when he faced a real defense against Clemson, and it was hopeless. I mean, he had no chance in that game. And he's facing another real defense here. I know this. I don't want to lay points with the Aggies. It's Auburn or pass for this better. And I wouldn't argue. I wouldn't talk you out of taking Auburn, not even a little bit.
Interesting. Okay, so we have a couple. So what I'd like to do is now I'd like to touch on this FIU La Tech spot here because it just keeps moving in FIU's direction. And then at that point, we've touched on the Friday games, and then we'll get into questions, and then we'll close up with the final 4 plays from Teddy's top 6 spots that he likes here on this card. So let's talk about it. Money keeps coming in on FIU down to 6.5, plus 6.5 at some books. What do you think of this market move? Do you agree with the market move? And do you think that La Tech maybe has value now? Or does that market move make you think that FIU was the play and it's being missed?
It's about the quarterback. They're betting the quarterback. I believe James Morgan is going to play. And there were some concerns about whether he was going to play or not. Kalen Wiggins was in last week, but it looks like their proper starter is going to get to the window, get to the playing field this week, and that's all the money is. They're just betting injury info. As far as the game itself, I do not have a strong take on these games. These aren't two teams that I've watched. So at this when we're in this stage of the season, if I haven't seen you play, I'm probably not going to bet on or against you until I watch you. So this is one I will absolutely be looking forward to watch on tonight. But I haven't bet it.
Our Eric Nisbet says LA Tech -7, lay it and play it. Lay it and play it. Okay, let's start getting into the questions right now. First off, Connor Longo says Arkansas -21, Teddy.
Yeah, I mean, I've been hearing a lot about this game over the last couple of days. I don't know why it's piqued so much interest. I don't trust Arkansas in this point spread range. I don't trust them to show up and play. I don't trust them to stay fully focused for 60 minutes. I remember last week when they were in a massive revenge spot against the Colorado State team that they led 27-9 and then lost the game last year. And that game's tied 35-all in the late third when Colin Hill got hurt. So it's not like I trust this Razorbacks team to win by margin, put up points for 60 minutes, get stops defensively. That being said, they're at least 21 points better than San Jose State. San Jose's a rough Mountain West team, and asking them to travel east to this environment and hang tough is not. I'm not going to take San Jose State, but I don't trust Arkansas to win by a big enough margin to cover the number. Pass for me.
Pass for Teddy. Drew from the SBR Forum says, Teddy, who do you like? Notre Dame, Georgia.
Hi, Drew. What's going on, buddy? My lean, and it is only going to be a lean in this game, is Notre Dame plus. I will not pull the trigger on Notre Dame because, this is the game that we find out, and I think we already have found out, but this is the game maybe we find out for real, whether Georgia is Alabama and Clemson, and whether we need to price them in that range. Because, again, these two teams met 2 years ago in South Bend. Notre Dame's the favorite, and the final score is 20-19. Okay? There's not 2 touchdowns worth of difference between these two squads 2 years ago. Has Georgia gotten, not like the Notre Dame program's declined? So the question is Georgia that much better now? And again, that was early in the season. You can make a case that that Georgia wasn't power rated right at that point. But the bottom line is Notre Dame's a pretty good underdog to be catching 2 touchdowns. I could only look in their direction, and I'm not going to look in their direction because I think Georgia might be Alabama or Clemson. If they are, they're going to beat anyone, and they should be 3 touchdown favorites over just about anybody.
Wow, that's going to be a hell of a game. Next up, we have Eddie Orley. He has 2 questions, and one's already being answered. So he says, does Teddy like either Tennessee or Illinois to cover? We know that he does like Tennessee. Let's just leave it at like, not love or anything like that. Just like Tennessee to cover. Thinks Tennessee has a chance to cover. Let's move on to Illinois. Nebraska at Illinois. Illinois at home. Open at plus 10.5. Now 13.5's on the board. Teddy, you think Illinois can cover this?
No. If it's 2 ugly dogs there, Tennessee's a clear choice, and Nebraska, in my mind, is a clear choice. It's not. This wasn't a game where I'm debating back and forth. Illinois is still Illinois. Okay, Nebraska is good. Nebraska hasn't won a road game in the Scott Frost era. Nebraska had a big lead at Colorado and let it get away. They didn't keep the pedal to the metal. I don't think that happens here. I think Nebraska's. They have the potential to wipe the field with Illinois. The Illini defense is going to have a hard time stopping Adrian Martinez.
Next question comes from our guy Topset. Says, ask Teddy, Michigan State -4 first half.
Yeah, I got no problem. I have no problem with any Sparty you want this week, and I'm probably the only one in the world. But the whole Northwestern is a dog. I understand all of that. Michigan State, this year's Michigan State team is better. And if you've watched Northwestern's offense with Hunter Johnson at quarterback, and you've watched Michigan State's defense, I don't know how Northwestern scores. Wildcats team total under. And the fact that Sparty couldn't score last week after a blowout, a big blowout where everything worked offensively the week before, they're coming to play. Michigan State's a dangerous team. I have no problem backing them first half.
Cassius Thomas wants to know if he should make a move on the Louisville, Florida State over.
I do not have a strong take on that. I apologize. I don't know how well Louisville's offense is going to work against this defense. That's the whole handicap here is, Florida State's going to get theirs. They're going to, 4 touchdowns in that range, one would think. The question is, can Louisville trade points? If they can, I think Louisville correlates with over in this ballgame. If you like the dog, I don't see it happening in a low scoring scrum.
Interesting. Okay, let's keep rolling. Perfect Rotation says, ask Teddy, should I grab Michigan now at plus 3.5, or should I wait and see if it gets to 4?
Get it this minute. Don't wait. Let me just check, because I was looking at, I'm saying that's like yada yada, but let me just double check and make sure that, the leading indicator books are saying that this could go down to 3. It's more likely to go to 3 than it is up to 4. I would take Michigan now at the plus price. And I know I'm being a little bit short with some of my analysis today. I'm trying to be short because I want to get through as many games as you guys want to fire at me.
Oh, so, I love it. I absolutely love it. I love it. Ali Hader, we're going to get to your question very soon. We're going to get to your question. We're rolling through everything. Okay, so that boy cold, Oregon versus Stanford.
So I had Oregon on the short list. I'm tempted by Oregon. I have not pulled the trigger. The series history is a little bit too much for me, I think, here. And if in theory, this is supposed to be the Stanford spot where they come back and play a decent game. And of course, I talked about it on the show earlier in the week, how Stanford literally changed their entire recruiting style defensively just to compete with Oregon. But honestly, Oregon should throttle that team. I mean, Oregon is capable of winning this game by margin. And given they've lost, each of the last 3 years to the Cardinal, the revenge, double revenge, triple revenge, dealio, the back door might be open. Costello threw the ball around. I mean, I was very impressed with Stanford, the way they responded last week. Blown out at halftime. They came out in the second half and played. And that is something that has stuck in my mind all week, and it's why I haven't bet Oregon yet. Plus, the money's been coming on Stanford the last 24 hours. So, but I do lean Ducks. I would only play Oregon in that game. And I may well get to the window before kickoff. I haven't done it yet.
Next up comes from our guy, Wally George, whom we had the pleasure of hanging out with at the IFBC in Vegas. He says, ask Teddy about Appalachian State, North Carolina. North Carolina opening at -4, now -3 or 2.5, depending on where you shop. App State, North Carolina, Teddy.
I mean, this is the wise guy play of the week. They love App State here. I'm still not sold on North Carolina. I understand that, it's impressive win week 1, impressive win week 2, week 3, trail early and then rally from behind and make things interesting late, and had a chance at the end. But it sure feels like big brother, and little brother's coming to play. The wise guys love App State. I didn't pull the trigger, but recognize if you're, and again, at this line, at 2.5, I'm not betting App State anymore. You missed it. There were 4.5s out there. There were 3s, 3.5s. 2.5's not the right price for this particular underdog.
2.5, not the right price. Questions rolling in, and I'm trying to take care of everybody. 4-ounce or 40-ounce beer belly dude. He's on Oregon -10.5. We've already talked about that, but he's on 2 other spots. Utah State -4, Washington State -19.
I like Wazoo. I have no problem with Wazoo whatsoever. UCLA, very misleading final score last week against Oklahoma. Literally, the score was 14-0, and Lincoln Riley's like, we better call off the dog, or this will be 70-0. I mean, it was, you could see it on the Oklahoma side. That game was over in the first quarter. This game could be over in the first quarter. I don't want any part of UCLA right now. That team is a dumpster fire. They're not Florida State. You know what I mean? This is a way worse situation than Florida State. It's way worse than Tennessee. UCLA is nothing but bad news right now. And they're in Washington. We know what Wazoo will do. They'll score and score and score again. The other one I don't agree with. I didn't bet San Diego State, but they were certainly on my short list. The Aztecs are the unsexiest team in college football. Right? Their offense stinks. All they do is run the ball up the middle. Rocky Long's running a spread this year. All they do is run the ball up the middle. It's the funniest thing. We're going to change our offense and open it up. Not so much. They're a boring team to watch. And they cover point spreads. Boy, you want them as a home dog. They can hang with Utah State. They can hang with Love. It's an Aggies team that I think is a little bit overvalued right now. And this point spread range, maybe more than a little bit. It would be San Diego State or nothing for me.
San Diego State or nothing. We have Avi Gold asking about a couple of small schools. So I don't know if you can light shed some light on this spot. He's asking about Howard, Delaware State. Delaware State is at -3 at 5 dimes, but the rest of the books haven't put out numbers there. He wants to know if you're able to break down this spot, Howard, Delaware State.
I do not work on FCS matchups, and I'm trying to think of. There's really no scenario in which I bet them. Every once in a while, I'll come up with a tidbit. I'll find something and looking and researching something else. But the guys that are betting the FCS, and there are guys that bet the FCS schools, no question. It's all math. It's all algorithms. And if you have actually any information on those schools, you can beat the hell out of it. But you got to dig for it. It's really hard to find. But they're betting poverty numbers and computer algorithms that are spitting out numbers saying this is a bad line, that's a bad line. There's very little opinion and information in the FCS bets. It's all number crunching, and that's not something that it fits to my style of handicapping. I'm going to crunch numbers, but that's not how I make my plays. I make my plays after crunching the numbers based on the information that I find.
Oh, it makes perfect sense. Bookie Lover Q jumping in saying, I had to leave for a sec, but Jimmy, Teddy is so right about Tennessee. As an alumni, I'll tell you firsthand, Florida versus Tennessee is a big, big, big rivalry. All hands will be on deck. Man, that's great stuff coming in from our guy, Bookie Lover Q, who hung with us in Miami. Ali Haydor says, ask Teddy, please, will UCF handle Pittsburgh?
It's a hard game. I mean, look, I'm not stepping in front of UCF. I'm a UCF believer, but this is the wrong point spread range. I've got UCF power rated sky high. I've got Pitt power rated as mediocre as they are. My number came 7.5 here. You know what I mean? So the markets, there's the old irrational exuberance. There's a lot of love for UCF in the marketplace right now, and that's priced them out of my range.
All right, let's keep rolling. Raven in the Desert says, I bet small schools. Raven in the Desert, you don't just bet them, you crush them. They're tricky, though. They're tricky. You have to do a lot of digging, as Teddy said. But, man, 6-2 last week. You were a spectacular small schools. And trust me, I've got my eye on how you handle the small schools this week. Okay, let's keep rolling here. Next up, the real DJX. Can you ask Teddy's opinion on TCU SMU?
So that line just got popped. As we've been talking, it was sitting at 9.5 this morning. I'm seeing a 7.5 at Penny right now, 8 across the board. There's been a lot of money for the dog in this game. I lean towards the dog, and this is one where I was doing a bunch of research on, and I didn't pull the trigger. There's a fair bit of familiarity between these two coaches. Dykes was on Gary Patterson's staff 2 years ago after getting fired from Cal. So these guys know each other. They know what they want to do. But when you go through the series history, I haven't seen SMU be able to compete in this point spread range with TCU yet. And I know SMU's better this year. And I know in theory it's a down spot for TCU. And I know the markets are all over it. So I lean it, but A, I missed the number, and B, when I'm going through the reports this last night and this morning, I didn't get that sense that SMU is going to go in there and win this game, and that's what I want. With the single-digit dog, I wanted the underdog that's capable of winning. I didn't feel that, so lean SMU. The best of the numbers gone, and I didn't pull the trigger.
Lean SMU number gone. Okay, so we got a hint that Teddy's got 6 looks he wanted to share with us. We already found out 2 of them, Utah and Washington. Teddy, take it away. We are all ears. What are the next looks on that 6-play card that you were talking about?
Well, and see, I've got 2 here that I don't know what to do with, so I'm gonna give you 7 in the end because I gave you Michigan all week, and I'm still on Michigan. So that you guys kind of already had that one. And the other one that I was debating that I took one out, and I'm like, should I give it? I'm going to give you Tennessee too, which we talked about and we like. So Michigan plus 3.5, Tennessee plus 14. We've talked about. We've talked about Washington minus 6.5, and we talked about Utah minus 3.5. So there's really only 3 more I'm going to give you right now. So there's going to be 7 instead of 6. I apologize for giving you extra plays. But this is all stuff that I bet and that I still like at the current number. That was the key for what we're talking about. Let's do the one that starts earliest, betting number 359, 360. I'm going to take Alabama and Southern Miss over the total. We talked a little bit about this. Bama's a threat to score 50 in this game. They're a threat to score 50 in every game. Southern Miss They faced Troy last week, and they couldn't stop that offense. I think they're going to have a really hard time here. And we've seen Bama, the track record under Saban's very clear. They'll shut it down eventually, but not until they get to 50 or pretty darn close. And I think Southern Miss, this is not a game where I think that Hobson's offense is good enough to get something. Couple of touchdowns. I think Southern Miss gets into double digits. I expect this game to get up and over the total. So Alabama, Southern Miss over. Current number 61.5. If you shop around, you can find 61s. Check out that SBR Live odds screen to see where those 61s are currently available. So that's one. Second play that we're going to talk about right now. Oh, this is West Virginia -4.5 against Kansas at Kansas. This is another one. You look at the series history here. And you say, did Kansas get that much better from last year or the year before or the year before that? We saw them blow out BC last week. They shocked that squad. BC wasn't ready. They didn't respond to adversity well. I look for West Virginia to respond to adversity a little bit better. I don't think they're going to be shocked, and I don't think Kansas is going to run around them. And we saw the Mountaineers offense come to life last week. They'll be in the 30s here. I don't think Kansas trade points them. West Virginia -4.5. That is a 1:30 Pacific start time. Betting number 373. Last but not least, there's a watch and win on Saturday night. Virginia and Old Dominion. And this is the ugly underdog that I want my money on. +28.5 with the Monarchs. Talk about a spot for Virginia. Gee, we just beat Florida State, and we got Notre Dame on deck. And Bronco Mendenhall, all the quotes this week are, we're not worried about the letdown. We're not worried about the letdown. Whenever the coach mentions the word letdown, that team lets down. Watch, see. There's no way Virginia brings their A game here. They can't. Old Dominion, we saw them give Virginia Tech a whole lot of trouble. They beat Virginia 2 years ago and gave them a bunch of trouble last year. 2-touchdown game. This point spread's too high. 28.5 is a gift. Take Old Dominion plus on Saturday night.
Old Dominion plus on Saturday night. Going back to that West Virginia spot, Teddy, our Matt Randall was liking the over in that game. What do you think of the total?
I wouldn't talk you out of it. I really wouldn't talk you out of it. I think West Virginia is going to get their fair share. And Kansas, they showed a little bit of playmaking ability last week that I hadn't seen from Kansas before. That 12-7 game against Coastal Carolina, still in the back of my mind, though, so I didn't pull the trigger.
Didn't pull the trigger. Double T jumping in says, just starting out with online betting, what is the best site to start with? Here, I will put the link to our Sportsbook Review rating guide. In this link, we rate each and every one of the sports books that are available to you. Here it is, and copied and pasted. There you go. There you go, Double T. Good luck. Good luck, my friend. Sook now says, love that OD spot, Teddy. SBR Forum says, love ODU. Raven and there says, yep, ODU. And Big Ragoo says, I like the over in the ODU Virginia spot. What do you think of the over there?
I don't have a strong take on it. My concept is that ODU is going to hang. Virginia's lack of focus this week may well show up on the defensive side of the football, but it may well show up on the offensive side of the football. So I don't trust Virginia to get theirs, so I'm not going to play the over.
Not going to play the over. Raven in the Desert over in the Kansas-West Virginia game. All right, this is great stuff. DJ Big Boss says, what do you think of the Clemson first half trend?
I don't have a strong... I mean, again, the trend, once people start to know about it, the markets have already caught up. You know, we saw that with Alabama last year. And Clemson's capable of doing whatever they want against Charlotte. And if you're riding the trend, when you have something like that and you're riding it, you just ride it. But you don't want to jump in at the end and say, oh, now's the time to do it. You know, that's when those type of things crash and burn. So, you know, with any streak, I say ride that streak till it dies. And if you're betting it week, you're betting it here, whether it's an MLB total streak, whether it's a college football point spread streak. You say, hey, I jumped on this team when they were undervalued and I cashed, 3 weeks in a row with the same team. I'll ride that team till they lose. And then maybe I'll ride them again the following week. But, you don't want to be jumping in. Oh, look, they've cashed 11 overs in a row. Let's play the over this week. You're coming in a little bit late to that party, that sort of thing. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. Makes perfect sense. We have a question coming in from Salty Dog 93, OG Low Bagger. And Keems the Man has some questions. Okay, Keems the Man, I'll go back up and copy and paste your questions. From our guy, Salty Dog. Salty Dog says ULM versus Iowa State. And we've seen Iowa State open at minus 19. They're now at 18.5 or 18. This total open at 57, now at 55. ULM, Iowa State, Teddy.
It is not an Iowa State spot. I question their focus for this ball game. That being said, you grade out these two teams, and Iowa State can win by 4 touchdowns with their eyes closed. So I don't want the ugly underdog, and I did not lay the price with the favorite.
Keems the Man has a question for you. He says, Teddy, Keems the Man, another OG low bagger, says, I'm on the Michigan game with you. And then he says, but what are your books saying on where the wise guy money is coming in? Are you worried about the public filling the books, changing the line?
There's lots of things that you can focus on when trying to beat sports betting. For whatever reason, in the modern era, there seems to be a lot of concern on who the wise guys like and who the squares like. Every week, the wise guys are going to lose bets. Every week, the recreational players are going to win some bets. It's not like anytime the wise guys play something, it wins, and anytime the public plays something, it loses. It's pretty close to 50-50. The wise guys will make 100 bets on any given college football Saturday, and they're happy if they win 54. You know, you got a profit, grind out a profit, and you do that every Saturday, you make a bunch of money at the end of the season. It's not about this is a clear wise guy play, and all the wise guys are on this. No, it's just individual bettors and groups of bettors. There's no one wise guy, you know. Well, so we've seen two-way action on this game all week. I'm not terrified that the wise guys are going to take out all the 3.5. I don't feel like this is a big wise guy game on Michigan, and it's not a game where I'm overly concerned about what other people think. I know what I think. And if you're going to bet successfully, tune out. I mean, literally, tune out everybody else. Focus on what you think. And if you're good at it, you make some money.
Oh, that's well put. Well put. And we already know what he thought about that spot, and that is if you want Michigan, take it now. He said earlier in the show that there's a better chance of it going to 3 than going to 4. Eddie Oler says wise guy squares is meaningless. And okay, there we go. Man, okay, here we are after all week breaking down college football, and I've only locked in one bet. I've got a lot of work to do on this card, and I felt like the market moves haven't been as drastic this week as they have been last week, and I'm very, very excited to roll. I had a nice week last week, 11-7. That was going 0-1 on Friday and then losing my last 2 late Saturday night, culminating with Texas Tech loss. In between, I was eating. So I hope to, again, I'm sitting 24. Can we pop up that NCAA record one more time? I find the excitement on Saturday after breaking down all these great insights from all these great cappers is as fun as it possibly can be, but it also helped hitting with Pitt and the Pitt-Penn State under to get the day rolling there. I'm very, very excited about tomorrow and these games tonight, and we know what Teddy likes on tonight's card. That's the Utah Utes, and I think I'm going to be rolling with them right now. In fact, I'm going to give out Utah Utes as a spot right now on tonight's card. I'm going to grab that right now, line shopping here. I'm going to get minus 3.5 on these Utah Utes. I don't like going against Trotwam, but I've loved the breakdowns all week on why we should back these Utah Utes. I'm getting minus 3.5 at minus 105 on the Utah Utes. I'm going to give that out right now. I'm going to put this here, minus 3.5. at minus 105. All right. Teddy Covers, what a treat it is to roll with you all week long. Enjoy your Saturday. Enjoy all the games. Enjoy the weekend, my friend. Thank you for all the hard work and just incredible content that you put on our show each and every day. Means so much to us, Teddy. And all low baggers everywhere, follow Teddy on Twitter. He's very active on Twitter and so much fun on the weekends. Teddy, what is your Twitter handle?
And as you said that, I realized I forgot to tweet the show before we went on air. Oh, I'm just a clown. Sometimes you got so much in your head. I don't even know what you asked me. You're like Twitter at Teddy_covers on Twitter. I will be tweeting all weekend long, and I apologize for not tweeting the SBR link before I went on the show. That's annoying. I hate when I forget stuff like that. But good luck this weekend, guys. Kick some butt out there. Kick some ass.